At the top of the program, we showed you some of the latest controversies stemming from coronavirus. Now I'm talking about, among other things, Mitch McConnell inexplicably saying that states shouldn't expect a federal bailout. They're better off going bust. We also showed you how President Trump is continuing to dismiss and disregard the medical experts from his own administration, and also how he's sending out those mixed messages about when and how to reopen the country. My next guest, he's been writing extensively about all of this, and the headlines of his most recent pieces, well, they pretty much tell you where he stands. The problem isn't a lack of information, it's Trump. Trump tells a damnable and murderous lie. Captain Trump hits the rocks. Let's bring in the writer of those pieces, Washington Post op-ed columnist Dana Milbank. At the top of the show, we got into the position McConnell has taken on state aid. So forgetting from my end, the immorality of it all, I don't get the political logic of it in that this is not about, being against bailouts. We're trillions of dollars into that already. I don't get how cutting off funding for states is going to impact the hospitals, the schools, the first responders, how that plays anywhere. I don't get the political calculus, forgetting about the efficacy of it. Help me out. Where does he think he's going here?
My hunch is that McConnell's saying, all right, we're going to now try to attempt to regain the mantle of fiscal responsibility. But of course, when you've put $4 trillion or whatever it is out the door and added to the debt to a larger, more rapid extent than has ever occurred in our history, you don't actually get to reclaim the mantle. Now, a lot of this funding was absolutely necessary, but to say, right, I'm going to draw the line now. Let states declare bankruptcy. Can you imagine you've mentioned the schools, you've mentioned the first responders, people's pensions. I mean, it's really something that's going to have to be addressed. The Democrats pushed for it in this latest round of stimulus, got money for the hospitals, but not what they were looking for state and local governments. But guess what? These state and local governments are governed Republicans as well as Democrats, and they're going to be just as unhappy to see what Mitch McConnell has cooked up for them.
Listen, I want to be wrong, but I don't see how Georgia doesn't look back at what they're about to do not too long from now with just unbelievable regret. When that day happens, God forbid, where should the finger of accountability go? Should it stop at the governor's desk, or should it go to Washington too?
Well, it obviously goes to Washington in a sense that there's no coherent policy. Now, yes, I understand the president's advisors put out this phased policy, which actually makes a great deal of sense. But then you have the president egging on the protesters, saying, open it up right now. I had written about the Georgia situation early in the week and was, greatly criticized by the people who want to reopen it now. I wonder how they're feeling now that even President Trump has said that this goes too far. So Brian Kemp really doesn't have, in this case at least, Trump has been very clear that this is not what should be happening. For Kemp to even be defying the president and opening things up there, that's look. I think the political blame will rest primarily on him for what he's done. But this is, this has the potential to be a humanitarian catastrophe more than a political one. So that's really, the likelihood is, he said it himself, there will be more cases, there will be more deaths as a result, and it's going to kill Republicans as well as Democrats.
To that end, broaden this nationally. We covered what happened in Lansing and also what happened in Harrisburg and other state houses. We see the protests, but while that makes for good optics, every polling I'm looking at, the latest numbers today, as many as 80% of the American public, including a plurality of Republicans, are concerned about getting out of their doors too soon regarding the pandemic. Is there, again, forgetting the scientific and the morality of a misread, is there also a real political misread on the part of the president, particularly with seniors right now, that he's pushing out people too soon? And it's not just the people who are honking the horns and walking around without social distancing around these state houses, but people they come in contact as well. I just think they're not doing the math the right way here.
Yeah, you can sort of see what the political calculation is. If the economy is where it is now during the election, it's very difficult to see how President Trump wins re-election. He was very strong because of the economy. Live by the economy, die by the economy. So in a way, this is his only move politically, is to roll the dice with people's lives and see whether it works. But Americans have much more faith and confidence in the experts, in the scientists, than the president does. That's why you're seeing that they want to do this the way the experts say will be the best and safest way to get us back to work, the way it's happening in Germany, for example. So you can sort of see what the political calculation is, but it's also saying I'm taking a gamble for political reasons, even though I know it's going to cost lives. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for the president. So when you're in that situation, why not do the thing that will lead to the fewest deaths?
I know we live in a day and age of alternate realities, but last week you did a piece specifically about the president's recollection of, and that all blame lies at the feet of the WHO. And you said as many as 15 people, officials within the administration, were embedded with the WHO in Geneva. My broader question is, come fall, when people have to decide the next direction we're going to go in this country, is it still going to be siloed? What is real? Who knew what and when? Or do you think it's going to be broadly consumed enough to say, wait a minute, we didn't discover this in March. We knew about this back when. This wasn't, limited to only a handful of people. We knew, he knew, we chose to do the following actions. I'm just curious from your perspective, how much will the general public, do you think, know when they make a decision who the next president as well as next Congress will be?
Well, look, I think you can only withhold the truth for so long. If you look at the chloroquine controversy, which the president was saying what a terrific thing this is, Fox News was saying what a terrific thing this is. Now we're seeing the studies come back and say, actually not a terrific thing. Maybe we're killing more people by using this than would have died otherwise. So you can say it at your 5 o'clock follies day after day. People may believe it in the absence of something to disprove it, but when they see with their own eyes what's happening, that no longer works. And I think the same thing will happen here when we talk about how we're taking the best possible route to get the economy going again. And if the scientists are correct and this results in a second wave, the economy is not going to be going anywhere. So ultimately, you can't suspend the truth indefinitely. And it seems that when you're doing this with a virus, when it's a matter of science, the truth has a way of presenting itself in rather unfortunate ways.
Dana Milbank, as always, Dana, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
When we come back, the chief medical correspondent at ABC News, Dr. Jen Ashton, she'll join us to discuss the fight against COVID and why it is proving just so hard to get rid of.